Coming this fall from SJS Direct in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. You can pre-order your copy of The Man Crisis today on Amazon.com. Feminists like to say that there's a wage gap between men and women. And according to feminists, a woman makes 77 cents for every dollar a man makes. However, that whole argument about there being a wage gap is a complete lie. Because back in the 1960s, there was an Equal Pay Act passed by the government, and this Equal Pay Act states that men and women are supposed to be paid the same wage. And in many jobs that women take, like teachers or government positions, it is completely illegal to go out here and pay a woman less than a man. So when I hear this argument talking about how there's a wage gap, I see the real problem of this argument is no one wants to talk about not the wage problem, but the spending problem that women have. Because when it comes down to women and men spend money differently. And that's all related to the way men and women process information. Now, men primarily are logical thinkers. And because they are logical thinkers, they tend to spend their money on things that they need first. So a man will focus on developing a budget first when he gets his salary, and then he will develop a structure for how he's going to spend that money. So he's going to budget his money for rent, he's going to budget his money for food first, and he's going to budget his money for things like electricity and things like taking care of his car. So those bills are going to be taken care of first. And after a man takes care of his bills first, he's going to start focusing on spending his money on building. And that's another major foundation as related to the way men spend money. That's why it appears that a man makes more money, because a man goes out here and he takes the money that he has and he invests his money. Because a man's primary goals after he takes care of his personal needs is to focus on investing his money in developing a way to make more money for himself. So a man, in most cases, he's going to take his money and he's going to use it as a resource that he uses towards building a foundation for himself and building revenue streams for himself. So a man, he'll get a job someplace, but after he gets that job, he will be working on developing business ventures for himself that are passive revenue streams. For example, you have a guy out here, he may be working a job someplace, but he'll have passive revenue streams working for him that he spent money on, such as rental properties, or he'll have a business that he's working on the weekends, or he'll have a hobby that will go out here and it'll be generating revenue for him. So he'll have revenue streams that enables him to build wealth, and it's that wealth that enables him to take the dollars that he has and increase their value. So your man will just take his money and he will spend it in a way that makes him more money. So that's where I see where all these feminists try to come with that straw man argument regarding a wage gap, is that they don't see that men and women have had equal pay for years, but it all has to do with the way men and women spend money. And because a man is a logical thinker, he is more focused on investing and building than a woman is, because a woman's primarily interest in spending money is based on meeting her emotional needs. And whenever a woman spends money, she puts her wants first. And because she puts her wants first, what she does is she spends money on things that she likes, and she does not think about putting her economic needs first. So whenever you have a woman, in many cases, she will not create a budget for her bills, nor will she save money towards spending on her bills. Nor will a woman go out here and develop an economic investment plan for how she's going to develop revenue streams for herself. Now, there are some women who will go out here and work on developing revenue streams for themselves, and these women will have things like Etsy stores or eBay stores, or they will have small craft businesses, but these women are the exception and not the rule. Usually, many women are impulsive when they go out here and spend money, and because they are impulsive when they go out and spend money, they don't think about how this is going to affect them economically. So you'll have a female out here, and yes, she will make $100,000 a year, but she'll wind up in $150,000 to $200,000 in debt because she is emotional and she has to have things now. So she'll go out here and buy $2,000 purses with credit cards. She'll go out here and buy $1,500 shoes with credit cards, and she'll go out here and take cash advances off of her credit cards and at the ATM. And these cash advances will have high interest, and she won't think about how this is affecting her financially. And because she spends without a responsible plan for budgeting, then she'll start coming in talking about how there's some sort of wage gap. And there is no wage gap here in America. Women and men are paid the same wage, and women and men have been paid the same wage for over 50 years. The big problem in America is women have a spending problem, and that spending problem has been enabled by many people in the government and many of these beta males out here. Because when it comes down to the American woman has three sources of income at a minimum these days. And those three sources of income are her job, some child support she's getting from a baby daddy in some cases, money she is getting from her parents, or money she is getting from a boyfriend or a series of men she is dating. However, most women will sit there and say they are broke, and they will then sit there and complain about there being a wage gap when there is no wage gap. No, there is a spending problem, and women have a problem because they cannot control their spending. And the reason why they cannot control their spending is because many lack impulse control, and many of them are enabled by a group of simps out here, and the simps will listen to their tales of woe and continue to give them money, and that enables them to continue spending in a dysfunctional pattern. And because they continue spending in this dysfunctional pattern, that is why many of these women don't have money like men do, because many men know they are the only ones who can take care of their needs. They know they're the only ones who can take care of themselves. So they have to make their money last and make it go as far as it can go. And that's why it looks like there's some sort of wage gap. But the big problem is that women have a spending problem. And this spending problem has been exacerbated not only by simps, but by many people in the U.S. government. And it's also been exacerbated by people like John D. Rockefeller and the Rockefellers, who originally wanted to bring women into the workplace because they wanted to have two people paying taxes. And because they thought they could get two people to pay taxes, they would be able to have more revenue coming in. And they also thought, because if we bring this woman in, she's going to be a consumer, and because she's a consumer, she's going to be very impulsive, and she's going to take her money And she's not going to do what a man does, which is use the money to invest and build his family wealth. What she's going to do is be impulsive and be a consumer who goes out here and buys all these products from many of these companies out here. And that's another reason why many of these women are broke and why they're sitting here talking about wage gaps when, again, it is a spending problem that these women have, and it's that spending problem that corporate America exploits, and it's that spending problem that allows many companies to become wealthy at the expense of women. But when it comes down to the feminist, she will never debate the whole spending problem that women have because she wants to continue having that covert contract where she can remain the victim and she can continue to have access to resources. Whenever a man controls the money, usually that money allows him and his entire family to maintain a middle class lifestyle. But many people in government and big business, they don't want men to control the money because they won't profit if the man controls the money. When the woman controls the money, they know they can profit because a woman will not only spend all of her paycheck and the paychecks of other men, they will go and then get credit cards and drive themselves into debt because when it comes down to women, women are consumers, women are impulsive, and women are always in a race to keep up with the Joneses and have money to spend on things that will get them social currency because social currency has a high value with females, and because females want to be the center of attention, they will spend themselves into debt in order to get that social currency, whereas a man understands social currency has no value. And because he understands social currency has no value, he will go out and take his money and use it towards building wealth for his family so that they can have money to be passed on to the next generation and be able to take care of the next generation. And that's the reason why there's a difference between the way men and women spend money. And when it comes down to many people in big business and government, they don't want men to control the money because they know that men are investors, they know men are savers, and they know that men are going to use their money towards production and ways to build wealth for themselves. However, a woman, when she gets money, she is again going to be very impulsive, very emotional, and she's going to be a consumer who goes out here and spends money on items that will get her social currency and get her the attention of others. Whereas a man, he's going to spend his money on the basics, and corporate America and big business can't make money on a guy who spends on the basics because a man does not need that much to live off of, and a man does not need that much money to take care of a family. If we look at it, if you give a man $100,000 a year salary, he's going to come back at the end of 4 or 5 years with over $1 million. And the reason why he's going to come back with $1 million is because he's going to take his money and he's going to use it towards creating investment revenue streams. And those revenue streams from that $100,000 base salary are going to be used towards creating business ventures and investment platforms that will enable that man to create assets that generate him a way to make $1 million over the course of 4 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, or 15 to 20 years. And that's all due to the way men think. Whereas if you give that woman a same $100,000 a year job and multiple boyfriends who will give her extra money, parents who will give her extra money, and an ex-husband who will possibly give her child support and spousal support, that woman will be at least $250,000 to $300,000 in debt. And that's all due to the way your females think, because your females primarily, again, are emotional And they're all about spending, they're not about building. So that's the reason why we have what many people call a wage gap, but there is no wage gap. It is a spending problem, and it's a spending problem most Americans don't want to acknowledge because many of these beta males out here, they don't want to upset these females because they believe if they upset this female, they won't get an opportunity at sex. So they'll sit there and go along with this whole wage gap argument instead of telling this woman, your big problem is not the wages you make, your problem is with the way you spend the money you get. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct Men's Issues books, like the Simp series and the upcoming Man Crisis, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.